my dojo, and I had to make sure that I had my emotional support K frame and my emotional support L frame on hand for this episode.
J frame.
Oh, we're gonna get into J frames. Clint, I am really happy that you said that you wanted to do this with me here, for a few reasons. One, I love you. Two, you are a gun guy, and I'm a gun guy, and we've had an ongoing conversation for years about this, and this is just a nice little outlet to maybe talk a little further about this. However, you do have some very, very intimate family history in law enforcement.
My great-grandfather, Chicago PD, and was present just after Dillinger got shot.
That's one of the coolest goddamn things ever. And your family is still in possession of his service revolver, which is just the coolest thing ever, too.
Yeah, his Colt service revolver, his badge. And then there's another story where his partner, this must have been after, his partner, they were pursuing one or two robbers or suspects or something, and he was jumping over a fence, and his partner accidentally shot him through the back of the knee and blew open his front of his kneecap. So there's a news article about that too.
Do you have the news article?
Yeah, the original clipping.
That's awesome. Is that in that shadow box?
Either the same one or one right next to it, yeah.
That's so cool.
I want to shoot that Colt revolver.
I bet you could.
Why not?
I don't know if it's such a great idea with how awesome of a story that's behind that is, and it's like such a intimate piece of family history.
Yeah. And we should shoot it.
When you were clipping your cigar there, telling that story, I got to keep it in because I'm so happy that you told that story, but all I heard was
Oops. Wait, let's see. Can you hear this?
Of course.
Oh, damn.
So, another thing about this week, the boys just had a memorial for the 50th anniversary of the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which we've talked about kind of extensively, but I bring that up because that was the worst day at work you can possibly have.
Being on that Edmund Fitzgerald?
Yeah, that's a really bad day at work. That's the worst day at work you can possibly have.
Yeah. It doesn't get much worse.
No. And this is also a very bad day at work. So, what do you know about the 1986 Miami-Dade FBI Shootout?
Absolutely nothing.
Even better, because I get to flap my stupid trap and talk to you about this.
Damn.
So, to set the scene, it's 1986, Miami, Florida. What the fuck was going on in 1986 in Miami, Florida?
Cocaine.
Lots
of cocaine. And white Ferraris. And a lot of White Snake.
So I know what you're probably thinking there. We probably got some boys from South America running some of that Bolivian business plan maker, shooting fully automatic at feds with like Tech 9s and Mac 10s and whatever else they brought up, because that was happening. That is insanely wild what was going on there. Quentin, comment?
What? Yeah, probably. That's what I'm guessing. The 1986 Miami-Dade FBI shootout consists of.
Nope. 2 white guys with Sam Elliott mustaches.
Even better. Fud City.
So, our perpetrators are 2 guys called William Russell Maddox and Michael Lee Platt. These 2 dudes met while serving in the U.S. Army, and they have a couple of things in common. So that's 1, their military service together. 2, sweet mustaches, and that's going to be the only compliment I give these guys.
I have a feeling I'm going to be on their side.
No, you won't.
No?
No, that's another surprising thing. I will get to that, and you won't be.
Did they rob a bank?
They absolutely did. Multiple.
Did they evade taxes?
I mean, probably.
Did they kill a civilian?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, okay. Then I'm not on their side.
But we'll get into that because it's one of us, to be perfectly honest. The other thing that they have in common, both of their first wives died violently.
By them?
Ooh. So in 1983, Patricia Mary Maddox and a coworker were bound, gagged, and stabbed to death at work at the Riverside Methodist Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. William Russell Maddox was a suspect, but was never charged. He did collect a $350,000 life insurance policy and filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the hospital. A year later, in 1984, Regina Platt was found dead from a self-inflicted shotgun wound, in giant air quotes, to the mouth.
So she did the old pull the trigger with her toes?
I guess that's what the official story is. But Platt remarried only weeks later. And following that, later on in 1984 is when these two dudes started their violent spree. So on October 4th, 1984, they murdered 25-year-old Emilio Brielle while he was target shooting in the Everglades and stole his 1977 gold Chevrolet Monte Carlo to use it as a getaway car in the robberies. So that's why I was bringing up that you're not going to like these guys, because he murdered one of us.
Okay.
Mag dumping into trash.
Mag dumping in the Everglades, shooting gators.
In completely cold blood, with the idea that we're going to steal this kid's car. And they did.
We wanted the car.
Which they got, and used that car in a subsequent series of robberies of banks and armored cars. I won't go into all of those. It's not really important for what I want to get into you with. But those robberies were violent. They did fire at armored car guards. They did get violent in the banks. So this game obviously gained the attention of the FBI because bank robberies are under federal jurisdiction.
Yeah, they're not good.
On March 12th, 1986, they shot 30-year-old Jose Collazo, who was also target shooting in the Everglades, and stole his black 1979 Chevrolet Monte Carlo.
They have a style.
Collazo survived and was able to tell his story. Now the pieces are starting to come together. There's a pattern. There's these bank robberies that are going on. And this is what brings us to April 11th, 1986 in Miami. So the FBI started kind of putting two and two together, and they started mapping out that series of bank robberies and armored car heists. And they figured out that it's always on Fridays between 9 a.m. and noon within a 40-block area along the South Dixie Highway, which is Route 1 in Florida. So if you fly into Miami, hop on Route 1 going south to the Keys, which I've done before, it was along that area. At 8:30 a.m. on Friday, April 11th, 1986, 14 FBI agents set up a search perimeter in unmarked cars to search for that black Monte Carlo, plates NTJ891. The boys got ready. You and I both know what happens when the accountants in slacks and ties show up.
So what do they come with?
A lot. We'll get to that. But I wanted to bring that up because this is 1986. And we're still talking a transition period here. They're mostly primarily armed with revolvers, couple of shotguns, couple of rifles, one MP5.
Of course. Need an MP5 crew.
And a few Smith & Wesson 459s, which are the semi-automatic second-gen double single actions. So we'll get back around to that. I just want to give you a little tease. So we got a bunch of accountants in birth control glasses, plain clothes, in Chevy Luminas or whatever they are in the 80s.
Crown Vics, Marauders.
No,
they're like the G bodies, like the K cars.
Sure, I don't know what that means, but
Yeah, they're like the unibody ghetto cars that they would drive.
pretty much. And they're trying to be low profile. They're trying to spread out and see if they can just find this car that they are now assuming, but they don't know for certain if this is connected with the bank robberies, but they know this car has been used in a attempted murder before.
Well, right now it's just a stolen car, right?
Right now it's just a stolen car connected to an attempted murder.
Right.
But they put the pieces together going, we think that all this evidence kind of lines up that these are our guys. So there's 5 FBI cars that we need to be concerned with and 1 perpetrator car. And I'm going to do my best to try to keep all this stuff in order because a lot of shit happens very quickly and it's all overlapping and it gets very confusing. So there's 5 FBI cars and 1 perpetrator car. The perpetrator car is the black Monte Carlo driven by Maddox with Platt in the passenger seat. So FBI car 1 is driven by Agent Ben Grogan with his passenger Agent Jerry Dove. FBI car 2 is Agent John Hanlon and Agent Ed Morales. What's funny is I've seen an interview with John Hanlon and Ed Morales. It was the FBI Files episode. And Hanlon just joined this as like a hang with the boys. He literally said, he's like, I didn't expect anything to happen. We're kind of like going out on a limb, looking for a car in a city. I figured it was just going to be a good time hanging out with Ed. FBI car 3 is driven by Agent Richard Manauzi. He's alone. FBI car 4, driven by Agent Gordon McNeil, who I believe is the commander or one of the commanders of this. He's also driving alone. And FBI car 5 is driven by Agent Gilbert Orentina with his partner Agent Ronald Reisner. So when we get into the gunfight, I'm going to refer to the FBI agents by names and I'll refer to the perpetrators as suspects so you can keep them straight. One of the things about this gunfight is there's so much good luck, bad luck, dumb luck, and no luck. One of the dumb luck things that happens is what kicks this whole thing off. The black Monte Carlo pulled out in traffic directly in front of Agent Grogan and Agent Dove, with the plates still on it.
Bad day to be a bad guy.
Really bad day. So these 2 dummies never swapped out the plates.
Not smart. Dumb. Not smart bad guys.
The recordings of the radio traffic exist, and you can hear Grogan talking, and from what people have said about Grogan, he's usually pretty calm, pretty level-headed guy, and you can hear him getting excited because they'd all memorized that license plate number. They see the car with the matching description and the matching license plate, and they're right behind it. So they're starting to tail it in traffic. Now this becomes, we got to get as many dudes on us as possible. They know they're violent. They don't know for sure who they're dealing with, because remember, all they know is that this is a stolen car with an attempted murder on it, probably also connected with violent armored car and bank robberies. So as they start going through traffic, they're trying to get their other guys to catch up to them. So they're calling out on the radio the cross streets. In car 2, agents Hanlon and Morales realize they're only a couple blocks behind them. So they're hearing cross streets being called out, and then they would cross it. Hear another one, and then they would cross it. They're like, we're close. They catch up to Grogan and Dove. Now they got 2 cars. So as these radio calls are going on, here's another thing about luck. Multiple cars never heard the radio calls. There was one guy who was out of his car at the time talking with people about the bank robberies, trying to get more information, who never heard the call. Multiple other guys were in the pisser. They didn't hear it either. The longer that this pursuit goes on, Platt and Maddox realize they're being followed. So they start taking evasive maneuvers, kind of driving like idiots, which is what you're supposed to do if you think you're being followed.
Bad guys.
Yes, the bad guys are taking evasive maneuvers, but they're not driving like fast. In fact, they're driving really slow, which is another thing to do because now the other cars are standing out.
Right.
They make these 3 rights, realize they're being followed. So Hannah and Morales catch up. Already said that, whatever.
Fuck it.
I'll leave this in, whatever. This is so part of the thing with this podcast. I'm realizing is going to be well, actually, it's just going to be so many people. Like, if anybody listens to this, which I have aspirations for people to listen to this, but I highly doubt it. Just you say you're so stupid. Nah, whatever.
You get like the fucking autistic history nerds.
Oh my god! And you know how insufferable the gun community is with this stuff. I'm opening myself to a lot of bullshit, but whatever. So now we have 2 FBI cars following the perpetrators. Perpetrators realize they're being followed, making evasive maneuvers. FBI realizes they're made. So now they have to prepare. We got who we got. We got to figure out where to do this. I don't know if they were expecting a gunfight. I think they were, to a certain extent. And that's something about law enforcement, is you have to be concerned about where you're going to do this. You have to be responsible for every round that you fire. Your primary duty is to protect innocent civilian lives. Obviously, the robbers don't give a shit about any of that. So it's at this time that Grogan sees Platt in the passenger seat of the car hold up his rifle. Simultaneously, McNeil, who's alone, is coming from the opposite direction and sees Platt loading his rifle. McNeil is able to swing around and join the pursuit as well. You hear Grogan's call on the radio say, "Felony stop, we gotta go. Stop, like, now's go time." I've listened to a fair amount of interviews from Delta operators and other people that are involved in direct action and combat. There's something about when it's go time, they call it going all in, where it's full commitment. There's no hesitation. Whatever other factors are at play or are not at play, what I'm comfortable with, what I'm not comfortable with, none of that matters anymore. I'm all in. So one thing about this particular case is that the FBI agents, these guys are pipe-hitting motherfuckers. So when Grogan says it's time for felony stop, he puts the light on the car, light them up, start calling out commands. They're not stopping. Grogan then accelerates his car to get ahead of the suspect's car, while simultaneously Hanlon and Morales pull up along the driver's side of the car. Hanlon said that he saw the driver, and he said he looked like a stereotypical Old West bad guy with sheer determination on his face. He says he remembers this guy's face vividly. The suspects then go all in. Everyone's coins in the jukebox. It's on.
Ready to rock and roll.
And that's what happens. The suspects accelerate and slam into Grogan and Dove, which are now in front of them, and start pinballing bumper cars with Hanlon and Morales next to them. Morales is trying to order them to stop. They're not stopping. His car's bumping around on the road. So this brings us to where the gunfight starts. So you want to talk about armament. So agents Grogan and Dove, who are in the same car, are armed with Smith & Wesson model 459 9mm. Semi-automatic, double action, 14-round magazine capacity. This is whiz-bang shit for the time. I think it was introduced in 1981.
Or more like a 1911 had a baby with a 92F. Slide safety.
Decocker safety. So this thing, you can decock, but it goes into safe. This was Smith's entry into the XM9 program. So from all accounts, This particular handgun is a great handgun. And again, this is the whiz-bang shit for the time.
86, yeah, probably most people probably had revolvers on their hip. You could get a police trade-in one today for $450.
Nice. Yeah, there's got to be a blue million of them out there.
Probably, yeah.
So Agent Grogan and Agent Dove both had Smith & Wesson Model 459 9mm. Agent Hanlon had a Smith & Wesson Model 36 Chief Special. So I knew you would love that. That's the classic snubby. When you think of a snub-nose revolver, it's that 5-shot 38 Special Chief Special.
Yes. Yes. Boot gun.
It's funny you say that. That's where he pulled it from.
Of course. Why wouldn't he? As a backup boot gun.
Agent Ed Morales had a Remington 870 12 gauge. And
Nice.
also had a personal Smith & Wesson 686. Agent Gordon McNeil had a Smith & Wesson Model 19. The best thing ever. My favorite gun of all time. Agent Richard Manauzi probably had a Smith & Wesson Model 13. And we'll get to the probably. So what the Model 13 is actually pretty sweet. I think it was mostly an FBI contract that brought this into existence. It's a K-frame revolver. It's essentially a Model 10 that's chambered in 357. So the cylinder is chambered for 357. It's got a beefed up barrel, but it's still a K-frame. That's a classic police gun when you think about it. It's got like that fixed trough sight on it instead of the adjustable sights, which the Model 19 has. Agent Gilbert Orientina likely also had a Smith & Wesson Model 13 on him. Agent Ronald Reisner had a Smith & Wesson Model 459 as well, just like Dove and Grogan. And he had a Model 60 as a backup, which got used. You would like the Model 60.
That's a lot of revolvers.
Well, again, this is 1986, right? So this is the inflection point in law enforcement time when semi-automatics are starting to come into the realm of existence here. We'll get to this at the end of the episode, but the reason why this is like the paramount gunfight in law enforcement history, this was the kick in the pants that ended revolver carry, essentially. And it's fair and unfair to revolvers at the same time. There's no right or wrong answer in this. There's been so much research and dissection and study of this one particular gunfight. And there's instances throughout here where revolvers are a complete advantage. And instances where they're a complete disadvantage. Same goes for the semi-autos. Same goes for the shotguns.
I don't know. Shotgun's never really a disadvantage. If I'm going in a gunfight, I want one guy with a shotgun. Minimum.
You're not wrong.
Definitely want one fucker with a shotgun. And a few buckshot, and a few slugs.
So the buckshot makes an appearance, which we'll get to. So now the perpetrators, William Russell Maddox, who's the driver, had a Smith & Wesson Model 3000 pump 12 gauge shotgun on him. And Michael Lee Platt, the passenger, had a Ruger Mini 14, which is the difference maker.
Yeah.
He also had a Smith & Wesson Model 586, which is just the blued version of a 686, and that Dan Wesson 357 Magnum, which was actually Maddox's. So this brings us to the gunfight itself. So the shootout began at 9:35 a.m. So the stakeout began at 8:30. We're talking just over an hour later. This all goes down. We got the cars that are pinballing against each other in traffic. The FBI agents are trying to stop the car. The suspects are not stopping the car. Agent Richard Manauzi, who's driving by himself, catches up to the pursuit. He then sees one of the suspects aim a weapon at Hanlon and Morales. So now Manauzi comes up behind the suspects, rams the car from behind, which causes their car to spin around in a U-turn. He then catches back up to it, rams it again, and causes their car to crash into these trees in a parking area of a residential home. So you know in Florida how they have those like U-turn driveways?
Yeah.
This is essentially like a rectangle that they've just filled in. So there's 2 parked cars that are already there. Maddox and Platt, the suspects, smash into this tree and are pinned in against this residential car here, and Manauzi's car on the driver's side. So Manauzi then looks over and sees rifle suspect opening fire with his Mini 14 at Manauzi from nunchuck distance. You know what I mean?
Not good.
Very not good.
And fucking loud. So now your ears are ringing.
I don't know if Manauzi was necessarily concerned with the sound at this point, being that he's eating 223 in the face.
That's true.
So Manauzi de-asses the area, gets out of his car, and starts running back into the street. The reason why he did that was because he lost his gun in the crash. Manauzi had taken his revolver out and put it on the passenger seat of the car next to him, anticipating a gunfight, but not anticipating crashing. So when he crashed, his door popped open, and he assumed that he lost the gun in the street. So as he's being shot at fist fight distances, he tries to go find his gun, realizes it's not there, makes a bolt for this wall on the other side of the street, and that's where he stayed for the remainder of the gunfight.
Was that his only gun?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fucked.
While this is happening, Agent McNeil is coming in from the north, driving north to south, pulls in next to Agent Manauzi's car, and starts returning fire with his Model 19 across the hood of Manauzi's car into the suspect's car. So I've seen 2 different versions of how McNeil was fighting. One version is that he used the hood of the car as a support. So he's in a decent spot, even though this is the worst spot in the world to possibly be in. He's got the engine block between him and the suspect's car, but I guess it really doesn't matter if the suspects are firing over the car. I've also seen another version where he is crambling, to use Kyle Kinane's term, which actually came from a bit about him driving through a gunfight. So he's crambling with his revolver sideways. So he's got his knuckles up, his trigger fingers up, firing like this. At this time, with rifle suspect firing at Manauzi and McNeil, shotgun suspect is looking at Grogan and Dove, who pulled up behind them and fired 1 round from his shotgun at Grogan. At this point, McNeil scores a hit on shotgun suspect in the head and then the neck. This effectively ends shotgun suspect's
renders him
gunfighting,
out of the fight,
but not dead. So there's a couple of reports of him being knocked out, being delirious, but he's not dead. He's just not gunfighting anymore. So to recap, we've got one Agent Richard Manauzi behind this wall, out of the gunfight. We've got shotgun suspect with a bullet in his head, also out of the gunfight. Rifle suspect is doing all of the work from here on out. Agents Hanlon and Morales had crashed kind of kitty corner on the other side of the street behind Grogan and Dove.
Wait, why did all these guys crash?
They were playing bumper cars in traffic like a minute ago.
Oh, okay.
Also, they're seeing weapons. Shooting has started. Like,
oh yeah, I guess they didn't expect. I guess they didn't expect a heavily armed vehicle, did they?
They expected these guys armed and dangerous. I don't know what they expected, what they were outfitted with, but they did see long guns in the car when they were in pursuit, so they had an idea. They were up against some serious shit. So Hanlon and Morales then get out of the car, and they split up. Morales runs to McNeil's position, kind of north of Grogan and Dove, and Hanlon runs to Grogan and Dove. Morales moves in behind McNeil, and he's got his Remington 870. He is behind McNeil getting ready to try to support McNeil by firing into the suspect's car, and realizes McNeil is in my line of fire. He made a move to pull his shotgun up, kind of like in a ready position to try to find a better place to fire from. It's at this point, rifle suspect shoots Morales in the left arm, and it breaks both radius and ulna and causes his arm to essentially fall off. It's being held together by skin.
Yeah.
Morales described his arm as looking like, quote, roadkill. It gets worse for Morales because as he gets shot in the arm, he's also hit with fragmentation in his temporal artery in his head.
Yeah, that's not good.
Really not good. So, spoiler alert, Morales survives, and he described running up to McNeil as 1 minute I'm up, and the next minute I'm on the ground looking up, and he had no idea what happened. He just got knocked over. I'd also heard that he thought he'd run into the back of the car because he's like, how did I get knocked over? Why am I on the ground? That's when he realizes his arm is there, hanging by a thread. He's in bad shape. At the same time, Hanlon is moving up to support Grogan and Dove, realizes he doesn't have his primary revolver anymore. He also lost his revolver when they crashed the car. Pulls his back up, Smith & Wesson Chief Special, from his boot. It begins returning fire. So, at this point, rifle suspect decides it's time to get out of the car. He can't open the door because he's penned in, so he goes through the window. He's kind of doing like a push-up on the hood of the car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trying to get out of the car.
Yeah.
He's in sexy mermaid pose.
Yeah.
You know?
With a Ruger Mini 14.
With a Ruger Mini 14. This is when the one shot fired that has never been stopped talking about. This thing is still discussed to today. Agent Dove shoots rifle suspect through his arm, into his right side, into his lungs, and it stops about 2 inches short of his heart. This is a fatal wound.
Yeah.
But it doesn't kill him.
Mm-mm.
They said they saw him wince when he got hit, but he is not out of the fight, and he's not out of the fight by a long shot now, which is really unfortunate. But this is a completely fatal wound.
If given enough time, sure.
Absolutely. So, rifle suspect is also shot in the thigh and the foot, likely from Dove. I believe that Dove is just putting rounds down range. I think it's Dove that goes through 2 magazines worth of 9mm in this.
How many rounds were found in this house behind him?
In the house?
Yeah, or this Trans Am.
I don't know how many rounds they found embedded like in the home or the other cars, but the estimates are that between 140 and 150 rounds total were fired. Jesus. They don't know the exact number. There's a large volume of fire. You've got a 30-round Mini 14 that's being dumped as fast as it can by rifle suspect. And these, right now it's 6, but another 2 FBI agents show up in just a minute here. All returning fire except for Manauzi, who doesn't have his gun.
Or the guy with no arm right now.
Correct, but he's still armed. He comes back later.
Oh.
In a big way. So now rifle suspect returns fire in the direction of McNeil, who's behind Manauzi's car, and he hits McNeil in the hand. I guess people had said that they saw McNeil get hit in the knuckles. It flew his arm back. He didn't lose control of his handgun. He looked down at his hand, examined his wound, switched to his support hand, and tries to reload. As he goes to reload, he realizes he can't because the chambers of his Model 19 are full of blood. This is when he attempts to go to his trunk to retrieve a 12-gauge shotgun. At this time, rifle suspect scores another hit on McNeil in the neck and paralyzes him. So now McNeil and Morales are both on the ground by McNeil's car. Rifle suspect has now been hit about 5 times, but he's continuing to advance. He's now advancing south towards Grogan and Dove's car on the passenger side and starts working his way towards the car. Orentina and Reisner show up and begin providing cover fire from across the street, adjacent to a cross street, which is just north of this house. They believe Orentina hit rifle suspect in the arm, which at this point, rifle suspect had switched to a revolver because he had to reload his Mini 14. Fired a couple rounds with the Dan Wesson revolver, gets hit in the arm, causes him to drop it, and he's also hit by Reisner. So this guy, he's already got the 1 round in his lung that's filling up with blood. He's been hit now 7 or 8 times, and he continues to advance. Grogan and Dove are now on the driver's side of the car with Hanlon behind the car. So Hanlon sees rifle suspect advancing, but Hanlon's out of rounds. So rifle suspect gets up on him and is able to shoot Hanlon multiple times and put him down. Hanlon is hit through the knuckles, the thumb, the arm, and all of that sends his chief special flying out of his hand while he was trying to reload. He had like loose rounds in his pockets, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now he's disarmed and shot up. Rifle suspect then comes around and shoots Hanlon directly in the groin. And Hanlon described this as saying, "The blood geysered from my groin to my knee. I mean, the blood just came out like a balloon breaking."
What a dickhead.
No shit. So Hanlon's in bad shape. While this is all going on, Grogan and Dove are covered behind their car here, trying to fix a malfunction on Dove's handgun. Want to take a guess at what that malfunction was?
Failure to eject.
Negative.
Oh.
Dove's gun had been hit in the slide by a .223 round and locked open.
Oh, you're not going to fix that.
No. But Dove has also been hit in the hip, and he's essentially immobile. With all this shit going on, and that's the only gun that he has to my knowledge, trying to process in the matter of like a second, maybe a couple of seconds, what just happened to me? I'm hurt. What's going on with my gun? Why is it down? Grogan is also trying to help him at this point. Grogan wore glasses. But when they crashed, his glasses came flying off of his head. So now Grogan is somewhat disabled because he doesn't have his full eyesight. I don't even know if they figured out exactly what has happened to Dove's gun at this point. But as they're trying to clear this malfunction, rifle suspect advances around the car and fatally shoots both Grogan and Dove right next to each other. He executes Dove in the head. He shoots Grogan in the chest, who drops next to Hanlon, and Hanlon describes hearing Grogan say, "Oh my God," exhale, and he's gone.
Dead, yeah.
So at this point, the FBI agents are in a real bad way. They have McNeil out of the fight, paralyzed on the ground. They have Morales out of the fight with his arm hanging off and his temporal artery punctured, which is supposedly spewing blood out of the side of his head every time his heart pumps.
Yeah.
Hanlon bleeding out on the ground behind the squad car, and Grogan and Dove dead on the driver's side of the squad car. Morales somehow comes to, somehow regains the wherewithal to understand what's going on. He begins to return fire with the shotgun. One-handed, dude. So he's using the bumper of the car. He's kind of propped up against the back of the car. He would turn kind of, 90 degrees, fire one-handed, bring the shotgun back, grip it with his legs, rack the gun, and repeat. He does this 5 times until the gun's empty. He does score a hit on rifle suspect in the feet. So he was working on these dudes. Now, like I said before, Morales is in really, really bad shape. Morales describes this as a complete haze. He doesn't really understand what's going on. It's all very confusing. He doesn't really know what he's doing. He just knows, I've got guys down. I'm in trouble. I gotta return fire. Other people describe Morales as a complete psychopath at this point. He's yelling and screaming at rifle suspect and shotgun suspect, swearing at them, just total fuck you energy at this point. So as this is happening, somehow shotgun suspect comes to, makes his way out of the car just like rifle suspect did, and joins rifle suspect in the passenger seat of Grogan and Dub's squad car as rifle suspect is getting into the car trying to start it, as Morales is firing on them with the shotgun. Morales realizes what's going on. These guys are trying to get away, and if they get the car started and they get going, there's only one way for them to go, which is backwards directly over Hanlon.
Yeah.
So Morales describes this as knowing he was going to die. And the only thing he could think of at this point is, I'm going to die. I'm taking these 2 motherfuckers with me. He draws his personal 686 and fires 1 round that deflects and hits shotgun suspect in the head. Not a fatal wound, but hits him. Realizes he's got to get closer. So Morales, with 1 arm and a wound in his head, starts walking his way, advancing to rifle suspect and shotgun suspect in the car, firing as he walks with his 686. On the 5th shot of his cylinder, he hits shotgun suspect in the head, which kills him. The 6th and final shot from his 686 supposedly is through the window of the car with the barrel on rifle suspect's chest and shoots him, which severs his spine and kills rifle suspect.
Plus 1 for revolvers.
Oh, absolutely.
Can't go out of battery.
I was going to get to that. So I was actually really... That's something that we've all heard, and it happened here. So it's at this point that Orantilla and Reisner realize the fight's over. They go running up to Morales to tell him it's done, it's over. And Morales, like a superhero, reholsters his 686, reattaches the thumb brake, and that's the end of the gunfight. So when all is said and done, 9 out of the 10 people involved in this gunfight were casualties, either dead or wounded. Only Agent Ronald Reisner was the uninjured one. Manauzi, remember him from the start of the fight, he never fired a round, but he was wounded because he was taking 223 to the mouth, essentially,
Yeah.
when he crashed the car. So that's the end of the 1986 FBI shootout. This all happened in the span of 5 minutes.
Damn.
So this all happened extremely quick and extremely close distance. This is the street view of where it actually happened.
Damn.
So where I have the camera is essentially where Hanlon and Morales crashed, which is right about, actually you can see in pictures, is this exact wall with these weird windows or whatever these are. They're right up against this. So they ran from basically here across the street. But the whole thing happened inside of this like parking area right here. There were trees here. It looks like they're gone. But you could see, I mean, how close this all is.
That's probably, what, 50 yards max?
Way closer. I think Hanlon and Morales had to run about 30 yards. But the rest of that all took place within grabbing distance, dude. It's just wild how violent and how quick and how insane that got. What comes out of this is the I don't even know what to describe it as, the mind-numbing revolver versus semi-automatic debate, right? So after this is when the FBI started issuing semi-automatic magazine-fed handguns as standard issue. And this was also the debate of 9mm is not effective because of that shot from Dove that punctured rifle suspect in the lung. When they did an autopsy on rifle suspect, he had a 1.3 liters of blood in his lung.
Yeah, it was just a timing issue.
And there's photos of the crime scene and around the car. This guy was bleeding out the entire time he advanced around this car. They estimate that he lost half of his blood as he got to the car. How this guy didn't go down, I really have no clue. And nobody really does, but he didn't. So this leads us to Smith & Wesson developing the 1076, which is chambered in 10mm, which unfortunately is a disaster. The gun isn't really reliable. There's issues with it. There's issues with the agents that are trying to use it because 10mm has a substantial recoil. So this is where the 40 Smith & Wesson is born, is directly as a result from this gunfight.
Huh.
So there's really 3 law enforcement gunfights that have had a monumental shift on how law enforcement thinks about how they arm their officers. So the first one was the Newhall incident, which happened between April 5th and April 6th, 1970, which was, I think it was California Highway Patrol got into a shootout, and they had their Smith & Wesson Model 28 Highway Patrolman, which is essentially a end-frame 6-shot 357 Magnum. And the debate on this was the whole, you train with 38 Special, but go live with 357. So there was some debate about the 357 was on, they weren't able to handle it as effectively because of the much more substantial recoil than 38 Special. And then the other one was the North Hollywood shootout on February 28th, 1997. Do you know about that one?
No.
We could do a whole episode on that one too, because that's when the 2 guys who were body armored from head to toe with AK-47s, AR-15s got into a 40-minute, like, honest-to-God war gunfight with what seemed like all of LAPD.
Oh, I think I've heard... I know vague details of that one.
The whole thing was captured on video.
Yeah.
It's wild. That's the one where
They're basically walking down the street with AKs, like into a field of officers' cars.
yes.
Yeah.
So officers have, I think, Beretta 92s. They have revolvers. So they're hitting these guys in the body armor, which is doing nothing.
Yeah.
The guys are also
I remember hearing about this.
So what's born out of that is the patrol rifle, because there's instances where officers actually went into a gun shop, which was kind of adjacent to where this bank was, and started loading up with AR-15s and 223. So now that you have patrol rifles, and that's where I want to start talking to you about Monday morning quarterbacking and analysis and thoughts about this, because I have some myself, but I want you to kind of give me your thoughts on what you just heard, what you learned, questions you have, and we'll get into it.
What do you mean?
I guess, from your perspective as a gun guy, as a guy who you shoot competitively, you hunt, we've done that together. You do security, and there is an element of personal, responsibility there, because you do it where your wife works.
Oh, yeah, this was a shit show. That's what you mean?
Yeah, and
how many rounds did you say?
Between 140 and 150 known.
Yeah, that's a shit show. That's bullets in neighbors' walls, bullets in cars, bullets in trees.
Yeah, there's pictures of the cars it's just Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
Everything is shot up. All these cars have been in accidents, so these are mid-1980s cars, late 70s to mid-80s cars. They're all smoking. They're all disabled. And another factor of this was it took place in the morning, and we're facing north right now. So you've got bright, sunny Florida sun coming up in the east that's in the FBI agent's eyes. So you've got smoke from the cars, smoke from the guns, sunlight in your face, and one guy who has reloaded a Mini 14 at least once just racking rounds off. It's a total fuck show.
Roll it back. How did the suspects get alerted? Like, wait. They knew they were being followed. They did evasive maneuvers, but not erratically. Like, how do they end up in this spot? This is probably like the worst spot ever.
What really put them into this spot where they crashed up against the trees and the cars was Agent Richard Manouzi. He rammed them twice, and the second time he rammed them was what caused them to go careening into these. There's used to be trees here, they're gone, and up against that parked car. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about with like my thoughts on this was Agent Richard Manouzi did all he possibly could with nothing, right? So he rams the car, he ends the pursuit, causes them to get pinned in. He's done what he's supposed to do. He stopped the car chase, he's got them trapped. He lost his gun, which is pure dumb luck. And I think he made the right decision by fucking bolting. Because A, he's taken 223 rounds out of a semi-automatic rifle, like I said, at nunchuck distance. There's nothing you can do about that. 2, he's unarmed. He can't do anything. So it's not just preserving his life, but he's got to do his other guys a favor by getting the fuck out of there.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, Monday morning quarterback, but your best move probably was to fall back and see what they did.
So during the pursuit, they were trying to get as many other FBI agents around them as possible before they made the stop. But when they saw the guns come up, that's when they went all in, and they knew they had to stop it. They knew these guys had been violent. They were pretty sure that they were connected to all those robberies. But that's what brings me to, like, these guys are pipe-hitting motherfuckers. None of these FBI agents involved in this were scared at all. And they felt a tremendous amount of responsibility to end this as soon and as safely as possible, even though obviously that's kind of not what happened. But you've got 2 guys that have already killed one person for sure, potentially both of their first wives, attempted to kill a second guy, attempted to kill, I think it was like at least 2 or 3 other people when they were during the robberies. Like, these guys are extremely violent and extremely dangerous. So you can't pick and choose where this is going to happen. You try your best to, and which is what they were trying to do, but once those guns came up, all right, it's on. It's time to go.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if you could do it any better. It's a shit show.
Right, and that's why, like, I say, like, Monday morning quarterbacking this, but there's really no other term for it. Where I chalk this all up to is it was such a shit show that what happened happened. Everybody made the right call.
And it was within the course of 5 minutes.
Right. That's crazy. That's an insane volume of fire. And there's just so much, like I said, good luck, bad luck, dumb luck, and no luck. So
I don't really think you can Monday morning quarterback it, honestly.
Oh, a lot of people have.
Yeah, but it's like you're getting 140 rounds fired within 5 minutes. You got a Ruger Mini 14, which is firing 223 rounds from all directions, and you have FBI agents in all directions firing crossfire at each other, at the suspects. People are moving. You have shotgun rounds. You have revolver rounds. It's a shit show.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's just kind of like, fuck it. Just fuck it.
At that point,
there's no game plan. There's no fucking tactic or strategy. It's like, I hope I fucking kill them before I run out of ammo.
So that's how I know I couldn't be an effective gunfighter, is because I think too much in a process where it's like, oh, let me think about what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do next, the blah, 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 blah. And these guys, in a moment of, obviously this is a fight for their lives, and 2 of them did lose their lives. Other than Manouzi, who, like I said, I think made the exact right decision by bolting and getting out of there. He's unarmed. He can't do anything other than be in the way. Everybody else went towards that fire. Orentina and Reisner stayed over here, but they were providing cover fire the whole time. Just putting rounds on target. And then you got Morales, who just one-man armied it to an end. So this is a representation of what the FBI had versus what the subjects had. And this is where more bad luck, dumb luck comes into play. So the FBI did arm themselves with multiple shotguns. They did arm themselves with an M16 and with an HK MP5. The dudes that had the rifle and the MP5 didn't make it. They were elsewhere. They just didn't show up in time.
Again, Monday morning quarterback, but like they lost guns. They were armed up more than the subjects. One guy resorted to pulling a boot gun, which I would have. Definitely. Because then at the end of the day, the fucking revolver pressed against the chest saved the day. Which you can't do with the 549.
Right. And again, that's like, this is the exception that proves the rule. I have never heard of another situation where someone had to be worried about an out-of-battery malfunction like that. This is an extreme example of somebody who knew in the moment he was dying and just out of sheer fuck you energy ended it.
Yeah.
And he would have used whatever he had on his hip. He just happened to have a 686 on him.
Yeah. But I think that's where it comes in a distance, right? So within 7 yards, revolver, snub nose, good. Press against body, can't go out of battery, doesn't have malfunctions unless it comes up with your own fucking blood or dirt. Outside of 7 distance, 549, because you got more firepower, less reloads. And probably faster second and third shots because you're not shooting full power 357s. And then like 15 yards, M16, MP5. And then some asshole with a shotgun just fucking spraying buckshot at the car.
Which is what Morales did.
Yeah.
So Morales having that 870 was a big time advantage for the FBI, but he went down immediately. Yeah, and that's some more dumb luck. Like,
which you're not going to control.
Right. This is all like where you get like the arguments about 9mm garbage. I'd rather have a 45. I'd rather have this. I'd rather have that. It's stuff like this that proves that it just doesn't fucking matter.
No. Nothing matters.
Even round placement didn't matter in this case because Dove hit the guy in the lung.
Right.
That's a fatal shot. The craziest thing about that is on the autopsies of those guys, they were clean. They were not inebriated. They were not on drugs. That's just sheer adrenaline.
Right.
And all of the FBI agents that were killed happened after this guy had his entire chest cavity filling up with his own blood.
Yeah.
The best thing you can possibly do is more rounds on target. Get another hit. And I've heard, direct action guys, Delta guys talk about this. Like, in a situation where you're going and doing close quarters battle, these Delta guys are talking about it's a 50-50 chance. When you're inside a house fighting at fist fight distances, all that goes out the window.
Like I've always said, throw out all statistics. They don't exist. Everything is a 50-50 chance. Is it going to happen or not happen?
I agree. And I think that this is a perfect example of that. And the amount of bad luck, dumb luck, I just keep coming back to that. Multiple guys losing their guns because they got into car wrecks when they were preparing to get into a fight.
Right.
You had potentially your best shooter in the group lose his glasses, so now he is at a disadvantage. You had the one guy with the long gun have one of his arms get blown off and then take fragmentation to the head, knock them out for a little bit. So much went wrong And that's what happens in gunfights. Gunfights are fucking weird. Every time I've seen things like this where law enforcement gunfights are different than military gunfights in the sense that, like, military gunfights are somewhat planned. There's a whole different way that it kind of comes about, and especially with the U.S. military, we try to pick and choose the times that we get into the gunfight and where and how, and stack ourselves to the biggest advantage we can possibly have. Law enforcement doesn't have that luxury. Just like your great-grandfather.
The closest would be like SWAT, planning a raid.
Right. The equivalent to this would be the FBI Hostage Rescue Team, HRT. And even SWAT, they can't plan a lot of times.
No.
They have to show up and figure it out. But the whole thing about, like, 9mm is not effective, revolvers are not effective, like, that's where people started getting way tangled up in the weeds on this. And one of the things that I watched to prepare for this was Paul Harrell did a really good video on this gunfight, and he described how he studied this quite a bit. He was in the Marine Corps. He learned about this when he was in the Marine Corps. He was an instructor. Like, this was very heavily involved in things that he learned about and taught when he was in the Marines. So Paul Harrell said all of the things about defensive carry, law enforcement carry, about you need multiple magazines on you, you need speed loaders, you need to know how to use your weak hand, you need, like, all this shit that people talk about. This is the thing that proves that you need to do that, because all of that happened here. Now, for a normal civilian like you and I, if we're firing our weapons in self-defense, it's a bad day. It's already gone pear-shaped in a massive way. And if we're already at a point where we have to worry about our weak hand or making a reload, because that just doesn't happen in normal self-defense firefights at all. And even in law enforcement firefights. But you had Dove reloading his 459. You had the guys with their Model 19s and their Model 36s trying to reload them because they had expended the whole cylinder. You had a revolver go down because there was blood that caked up the gun. Like, the amount of times I hear stupid YouTubers talk about, oh, this grip is nice and good, you know, if your hands are sweaty or muddy or bloody. It's like, when the fuck are you ever going to have a bloody hand?
You're not. You're fucked.
But one thing that I did want to talk about is you and I are huge fans of revolvers. Massive fans of revolvers. And revolvers had a starring role in this gunfight for good and bad reasons.
Alright, now that I'm thinking about it, I think that's the difference of a self-defense situation where a snub-nose revolver or a revolver in general is fine, and maybe not a spare mag is fine, versus I'm in pursuit of a suspect that I think is armed and dangerous. I want more capacity to put rounds down range and reload faster, because at that point if someone's shooting back at me, it's not a 7-yard or a guy's on top of you fight. It's I'm shooting from cover, in movement. I want multiple magazines, and I want something that's going to overpower whoever the bad guy is.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. If I am in a profession where gunfighting is a probability, like an FBI agent, like a SWAT team, I would definitely agree with that. So what you're describing is actually called the New York reload, which is, this gun's out, dump it, grab a second one.
Right. Yeah. Revolvers aren't the tool of choice I would choose for this.
Again, this is 1986, where that's what they had, and the Smith & Wesson 459, that's the new whiz-bang thing. And it's kind of funny that the two guys that were partners that were in the same car, unfortunately the guys that lost their lives, Grogan and Dove, were the ones issued with this. So on the one hand, you have Dove, who was only 30 years old. I think he had 4 years of experience. I don't know what his marksmanship experience was like. But Grogan, on the other hand, was like above 20 years of experience. And I'd heard that Grogan was a competition shooter as well. There was a quote that I heard that he trained his whole life for this moment and was really into keeping up with the technology and keeping up with his skill. So it's kind of funny that you've got this old veteran that's got the new whiz-bang shit.
Yeah. Obviously, they didn't exist back then, but this would be a pretty good argument, in my opinion, for red dots. Instead of
Yes and no.
Instead of
yes
gutter
and no.
sights.
For me, a red dot is just one more thing on a defensive gun where it's something that could go wrong. And I still have a hard time, and it's...
That's where I would say this is the difference between defensive and offensive. In my view, this is a more offensive situation.
That's a very interesting point, Clinton.
See?
Oh, I see.